Okay, let's unpack this. Welcome back, everyone, to the deep dive. We're jumping straight back into our journey through Oliver's debut album, A Night on the Earth. It's been quite an emotional ride, hasn't it?
It really has. We've seen everything from this sharp, paralyzing sense of betrayal right at the start through these moments of really quiet, shared
And
sadness.
then last time, we hit track 6, You Lost My Love.
That felt like, well, it felt like a conclusion. Real fury, a final statement.
Absolutely, that was the crucial turning point, context-wise.
Mhm.
Track 6 gave the narrator this functional clarity. He had the proof,
Right.
the specific betrayal with the two special friends.
Right, the unforgivable act.
Exactly. And that knowledge fueled this
Mhm.
um, necessary aggression. It allowed him to finally say, okay, I'm walking away. This is over. He declared it decisively. It felt like peak self-assertion.
It really did. Like he'd finally found the truth he needed to just preserve himself, to get out. But then, and this is the really fascinating part we need to dig into today.
Right after that moment of clarity, that definitive exit in track 6, the album immediately pivots. We get track 7, Tell Me Why.
And right away, the title tells you something shifted. Our sources call this track a pop rock ballad dealing with the end of the relationship, and that title, Tell Me Why.
Well, it just screams regression, doesn't it?
Totally. You go from the certainty of you lost my love, this powerful statement, right back into confusion, pleading almost, needing answers from the outside again.
It's a huge emotional whiplash, and that's our mission today, really.
Yeah.
Why? If he had the truth in track 6, the reason for the split, why does Oliver's narrator suddenly need to ask why all over again?
Is it a sequencing thing? Like maybe Tell Me Why actually happens before the final break, a moment of hesitation.
That's one possibility, yeah.
Yeah.
A sort of last-ditch attempt before the definitive walkout,
Mm.
or, and this feels maybe more painful, more psychologically real.
Does it show that the clarity he found in track 6, that anger-fueled clarity, just couldn't hold up? That the intellectual decision to leave crumbled the moment he faced the actual emotional reality of the loss?
Ah. So the head knew it was over, but the heart, or maybe the gut,
Yeah.
was lagging behind.
I think that's a strong possibility. I tend to see it as the immediate emotional fallout. Track 6 was the statement made from a kind of functional high ground, but tell me why. That's pure vulnerability. It's a plea from rock bottom.
It strips away all that protective anger we heard before.
Exactly. It exposes the wound that the rage was, perhaps, masking. Which brings up a kind of irony, doesn't it? He got his freedom in track 6, but maybe the immediate price was sinking right back into this profound uncertainty.
It speaks volumes about the difference between knowing something logically and truly processing it emotionally.
It really does. You can understand intellectually, okay, this person betrayed me, I have to leave. But the part of you that's attached, the part that built an identity around that relationship, well, it doesn't operate on logic.
No, it needs something else.
It needs to understand the how, the mechanics of the failure, not just what happened, but how did the love stop, regardless of the betrayal itself.
And the sources really emphasize that vulnerability, don't they?
Mm.
Calling Tell Me Why an honest song. It feels raw, unfiltered.
Absolutely. And you see that rawness most clearly in the desperation for dialogue. It's not like Song for You, which had that quiet, resigned grief.
No, this is different.
It's almost a demand for verbal confirmation. He's not just asking why. He's saying, just tell me what has changed, and then tell me now.
It's like an ultimatum, isn't it?
Yeah.
Talk to me, explain this, or what?
Or he can't move on. He needs the narrative of the failure spelled out for him because he can't seem to generate that closure internally. The anger wasn't enough.
Okay, so let's dig into the specific questions he's asking, the answers he seems to need. What do they tell us about his state of mind here?
Well, the first thing that jumps out is how he describes the partner's emotional state. It sets this really chilling tone.
Yeah, that line about the heart.
Your cold, cold, cold heart, that triple repetition of cold. It's not accidental. Musically, lyrically, it just hammers home this absolute emotional shutdown he's perceiving.
It's interesting, that focus on coldness.
Mm,
Not anger, not malice, but coldness.
right. Because anger, even negative emotions, they still imply some kind of connection. There's energy there.
But coldness,
Okay.
that's different. That's indifference, isn't it?
It's the ultimate rejection, yeah. It's just feeling has just been severed, which is probably way more terrifying for him than if she were just furious.
And he feels it as an active thing, too.
Yeah.
You keep pushing me away.
Exactly. It's not just that she's withdrawn. It's like this active emotional winter freezing him out. And after all the fire and fury of track 6, running into this wall of coldness, it must feel like his anger didn't even make a dent.
And hitting that wall seems to immediately throw him back into those old insecurities we heard earlier in the album. The fear of being replaced comes roaring back.
It does, but it's framed a bit differently now, I think. It's laid bare. He asks, point blank, "Did you find a better man? Does he love you more than I?"
Okay, but hold on. This is right after track 6, where his anger was so specific. It was about the act of betrayal, the special friends, the social stuff. That felt functional. Why does he immediately pivot back to this feeling of just basic inadequacy? Like maybe he wasn't good enough.
Because that's the cruel twist of abandonment, isn't it? The external event, the betrayal, gives you the reason for the breakup. That's track 6.
Right.
But the internal feeling, the sense of being disposable or not measuring up, that's where the pain comes from. That's track 7. He needs to know. Did this fail because of her actions or because of some fundamental flaw in him?
So the focus shifts from you were wrong to was I wrong? Or maybe was I not enough?
Precisely. And that question, does he love you more than I? Wow. That implies he sees it as a competition he lost, not because of a mistake she made, but because his own love, his capacity for it, was somehow deficient.
That's a massive blow to the ego. It's not just about being replaced, but being replaced by someone better at the core function of the relationship, loving her.
Yeah, it connects right back to those earlier jealous thoughts in Yes, I Know, wondering who is kissing her goodnight. But here, it's escalated. It's not just curiosity, it's an existential crisis about his own worth as a partner.
And that sense of worthlessness gets hammered home by what he says about his creative work, his songs. For Oliver's narrator, those songs seem to be everything, his proof of love, his deepest expression.
And that proof is just dismissed. Utterly, in maybe the most brutal lines of the song. All the songs I wrote for you never got inside your head.
Oof, that is just crushing. It's not just that she didn't like them or didn't appreciate them.
No, it's that they were ineffective. They didn't penetrate. They didn't connect. All that vulnerability, all that effort. It was just noise to her.
It makes you think back to earlier tracks, doesn't it? That feeling of futility.
Absolutely. It's a culmination. Remember Crying in the Vein in track 2. Wasted effort, no reward.
And 3 million miles of nothing in track 4.
Exactly. And now, his most profound personal efforts. His songs are basically labeled useless. If those couldn't get through to her, what chance did anything else have? It renders the whole relationship this exercise in failed communication.
Which leaves him desperately searching for some kind of explanation, some mechanism for how it all fell apart.
Right. He needs to categorize the loss to even begin processing it. Did your love just fade away? Was it slow? Or was it sudden, tied to the betrayal?
He's asking, how can I go on like this? Is this pain just here to stay? He needs a label for what happened.
Yeah, was it a quick death like finding a better man? Or was it this slow, creeping atrophy, love just fading, the not knowing the ambiguity that seems to be the real torture?
Because if you don't know the cause, how can you possibly find a cure? Or even just understand the wound?
Exactly. When you're dealing with trauma, psychological recovery often hinges on finding a coherent narrative. What happened? Why? If you can't nail down the why, betrayal, fading love, something else, then the pain just feels undefined and potentially permanent.
Which leads him to that awful conclusion. Is this pain just here to stay? That's such a retreat from the guy in track 6 who was ready to find a better love.
It's a massive step back, and that prolonged, undefined suffering leads us straight into the really intense imagery of psychological damage in the next part of the song. It gets visceral.
Yeah, this is where it moves beyond just sadness into something darker. He talks about holes being made.
And I'll be home to find another hole in my mind, another hole in my soul made by you.
Those lines are incredibly stark.
It's not just a broken heart. A hole suggests something's missing, scooped out, that feels like active damage.
The word hole is powerful, isn't it? It's not a wound that can scar over. It's an absence, a void, like something essential has been removed, leaving the structure compromised, hollowed out. And the phrase, another hole, implies this is ongoing. This coldness, this distance, it's continually drilling away at him.
It really paints a picture of the relationship itself becoming toxic, actively eroding his sense of self. It reminds me of that earlier line about his soul burning with pain back in Now I Know.
Right, but this feels different. That was heat, intensity. This is cold emptiness, a void being created.
And notice the end of that line, made by you. He places the responsibility entirely outside himself. She is doing this to him. He's the passive recipient of this damage.
Which might be a necessary coping mechanism in the moment, right?
Yeah.
To protect what's left of the self.
Perhaps, but it definitely externalizes the problem, which can hinder actually dealing with his own part in it or his own recovery down the line.
And amidst all this internal damage, he seems to just accept a future of loneliness. I'll be alone once again. I'll have the storms in my way. There's this real resignation there.
Yeah, the storms. It's such a passive image. Compare that to track 6, where he was actively seeking something better. Here, he's just bracing himself, letting the storms hit him.
So the escape didn't lead to strength. It just led back to isolation.
It seems that way. He left the situation, but maybe not the underlying feeling. He's marooned back in that same desolate emotional landscape we heard earlier.
And the driving force behind this whole song, this whole plea of tell me why, it boils down to survival, doesn't it?
Absolutely. He states it outright. Oh, I need some answers to make me live again.
Wow. That's profound dependency. The answers aren't just for closure. They're necessary for his basic functioning, his ability to feel alive.
It highlights how completely his identity, his emotional life support was tangled up with this relationship. Without understanding why it failed, he feels emotionally dead. And he believes she holds the key to bringing him back to life.
Which sets up that final, really complex part of the song perfectly, the conditional plea.
Yeah.
If he needs her for salvation, but she's cold and unresponsive, he finds this other way.
Yeah, this conditional acceptance, it's fascinating psychologically. He basically says, okay, I'll endure this agony, this soul damage, if. And the if puts all the responsibility on her.
He repeats it, right? Like a mantra.
3 times. But that's okay if you find your way through. But that's okay if you find what's true. And then the real kicker. But that's okay if you find the you I knew.
So his suffering becomes acceptable, even meaningful, but only if she fixes herself, if she achieves some kind of self-realization.
That's the implication. He's framing his pain as a kind of sacrifice, offered up for the hope of her eventual redemption, maybe, her return to her true self.
But is that truly noble? Or is it, I don't know, is it a subtle way of refusing to let go? By saying his peace depends on her becoming this idealized past version of herself again.
That's a really sharp point, the emotional tethering. If his pain is only okay if she finds the you I knew, he's delaying his own healing indefinitely. He's waiting for her to change back.
And that phrase, the you I knew, it suggests the person she is now, the one with the cold, cold, cold heart, isn't the real her, that she's lost or altered.
Exactly. It implies the relationship didn't fail because love ended, but because she lost her way, lost her identity, her truth.
So he's not asking her to come back to him necessarily. He's demanding she fix herself so that the original relationship, the ideal one, can be somehow validated after the fact.
It seems like it. It's a way to make the suffering worthwhile, perhaps. If she can become that ideal person again, then the relationship wasn't fundamentally flawed. It was just derailed by her temporary state.
Yeah.
It justifies clinging to that past ideal.
It's a refusal to accept that people change, that relationships end for complex reasons, maybe even reasons that don't involve a better man or a loss of truth.
It's definitely an emotional escape hatch. It prevents him from confronting the finality of it, the reality that maybe this cold person is who she is now, and the relationship in all its forms is truly over.
So the song ends with him stuck in that passive waiting pattern, hoping she'll magically revert, which will somehow validate his pain and allow him to live again. What a contrast to track 6.
A stark contrast. The decisive action is gone, replaced by this suspended animation. He's still completely tethered emotionally.
And that dependency, needing her actions to make his pain okay, that just seems like a recipe for staying stuck, doesn't it? He's essentially outsourced his recovery to the person who inflicted the wound.
It makes genuine, independent healing incredibly difficult, yeah. He needs to reclaim that agency.
Okay, now that we've really dug into the lyrics and the psychology, let's talk about the sound. This is labeled a pop rock ballad from 1996. How does the music support this intense emotional drama?
Well, Oliver's album is interesting because it doesn't just stick to one sound. It blends elements. We've heard rock, blues, influences, acoustic moments. Tell me why. Sits firmly in that pop rock ballad space, but it draws on those other elements too.
So let's maybe break down those blends a bit, based on what we've heard across the album, to give listeners a feel for Oliver's overall sound palette. Where should we start? Maybe with the more aggressive side.
Good idea. Let's call that the assertion rock ballad blend. Think track 6, You Lost My Love. That's the template for the power and drive. You also hear underpinning parts of Tell Me Why.
Okay, so what does that sound like, technically?
You're looking at a A pretty driving rhythm section. Drums are often quite compressed, making the kick and snare really punch through. Guitars are likely distorted, maybe tuned down a bit for that heavier feel. It's usually mid-tempo, 44 time, but often with a kind of push, a syncopation that drives it forward.
Giving it that feeling of accusation or confrontation.
Exactly. And the vocals often match that pushing higher, maybe a bit strained, conveying that intensity. That's the bedrock that gives lines like, "You keep pushing me away." There's sonic weight in a track like, "Tell me why."
But it's not all like that. We've heard much quieter, more weary moments too, like track 4, 3 Million Miles, or even parts of Yes, I Know.
Right, that's the second flavor. The melancholy blues ballad blend. Here, the rock structure gets filtered through this really strong blues sensibility. It changes the whole mood.
How does that manifest musically?
Often you'll hear a shift towards minor keys, definitely. And a key rhythmic element is sometimes that shift to a 68 time signature.
Ah, the 68 feel. That gives it that sort of heavy, swaying, almost trudging rhythm, right?
Precisely. It instantly evokes that feeling of weariness, of lament. Think classic blues. Instrumentally, maybe a more prominent lower bass line, cleaner guitar tones perhaps, but using lots of bends and vibrato, that real bluesy expression. The production might feel a bit more spacious, less aggressive than the rock blend, letting that sorrow breathe.
Okay, so we have the assertive rock and the weary blues. What's the third piece? You mentioned acoustic moments earlier.
Yeah, that's the vulnerable acoustic piano core. This is crucial. Even when the songs are dressed up in rock or blues clothing underneath, Oliver seems to build them on this foundation of real intimacy. Think track 5, Song for You.
Stripped right back.
Exactly. Strong melodies, that's the pop element, ensuring they're memorable but delivered with just acoustic guitar or piano. The production here is usually very dry, very immediate, not much reverb or delay.
Making it feel very close, very exposed.
Totally. There's nowhere for the voice or the emotion to hide. It shows that the songs are fundamentally built for that kind of raw, emotional delivery, even if they sometimes get layered with heavier instrumentation. Tell Me Why, as a pop rock ballad, kind of sits in the middle. It's got the pop melody, the rock drive, but you can feel that underlying vulnerability and maybe hints of the bluesy weariness too.
It's a really potent mix for conveying this kind of personal drama. So, Tell Me Why leaves the narrator in this incredibly difficult place, wounded, passive, waiting for this ghost of his partner to reappear.
And that final plea, that conditional acceptance, my pain is okay if you find the you I knew, it really forces us to ask a tough question, doesn't it?
Yeah, the final thought for today is that conditional forgiveness. Is it a last act of devotion, hoping she gets better? Or is it actually a failure of self-respect, staying emotionally hooked in even after everything?
If his ability to live again depends entirely on her changing back, on her fulfilling his idealized narrative, well, can he ever truly heal independently? Doesn't that dependency just lock him into the pain?
It feels like he's trapping himself,
Yeah.
waiting for something external to fix something internal.
Which suggests this cycle of pain, this questioning, this needing answers from her. It's likely to continue as long as he can't find a way to take ownership of his own recovery story. He's still looking outside for both the wound and the cure.
And that emotional state, that profound loneliness, the neediness, the endless loop of questioning it feels unsustainable. The album has to move on from here somehow.
And it looks like it does. The track list gives us a big clue. Next up is track 8, called Life and Lies. And importantly, it's listed as a piano ballad.
Whoa. Okay, that's a major shift. After the loud rock dynamics of track 6 and 7, dropping back down to just piano. That feels significant, like a deliberate retreat inwards.
It really does. We're leaving the amplified confrontation behind.
Yeah.
So the big question for our next deep dive has to be, what happens in that quiet space?
Right, with the focus on life and lies and just the piano for company. Will this stripped-down setting finally force the narrator to confront maybe his own part in this? The lies, perhaps, he's been telling himself about dependency, about needing her to fix him.
Will the quiet force an internal reckoning that the noise couldn't? That's what we need to explore. The shift back to intimacy, but this time confronting untruths.
It sounds like another pivotal moment.
Yeah.
We will definitely be digging into Life and Lies next time.
Looking forward to it. Until then, keep digging.